This is Find Your Flow, a show about navigating the complexities of life and business through the lens of curiosity. I'm your host, Angelique, and I bring together experts to deliver responsibly curated conversations and perspectives that aim to progress people and the planet. How often do you come across rubbish along your walks in your neighborhood or city streets? And how often do you stop to pick at, ask, or contemplate, how can I do something about this? So our focus today is on the transformation that occurs when individuals unite to create a cleaner, healthier environment for all, and the impact it can have on our communities. So cleanup programs not only have an impact on our environment, but they also can bring a sense of togetherness within our neighborhoods. From preventing pollution to fostering a greener mindset in future generations, we will dive into the power of community action and the journey of building a cleaner, more vibrant community together. And our guest today is the perfect gentleman to talk about this. He is Preston Ross, who, along with his board members, have collectively brought together an entire community of like-minded individuals to make our community even greater. So the Great Raleigh Clean-up was a happy accident that grew from Preston picking up trash while walking his dog, and the community of over 3,000 like-minded individuals of this planet that followed. Preston, wonderful to have you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and share your story. I know you said it's a happy accident, but tell us more about how the Great Raleigh Clean-up came to be.
Well, it started in 2020 while we were in the middle of the pandemic. Raleigh, even though we were in a pandemic, Raleigh was still growing. And I noticed that with more people, there seemed to be a lot more trash on the roads and things like that than before. And I'm from a major city, so I know what happens if you kind of let that get out of control and don't kind of jump on it fast enough. And I said, well, I mean, I don't, it doesn't take rocket science. I'm going to pick up some of it. So it started with me, like you said, just kind of when I walk my dog, I'd bring a little bag and a little litter grabber, and I would pick up as much as I could. But the job I was doing at the time had me driving around Raleigh a lot, and I was seeing a lot of areas where I was like, man, this is a lot worse than I anticipated. So I said, let me put it on social media. I threw it on meetup.com, and I was like, maybe I'll get some bites. Maybe some people will be interested. 2 or 3 of us get out there and do what we can. And I did that. And the first one, nobody attended. I had one person RSVP. They didn't show up. It was just me and my partner at the time. And so we did it. And then I didn't give up. And I posted another one. And the second one, we had 5 people, and then 8, and then 13. And honestly, 3 months in, by our 5th or 6th cleanup, I was like, all right, this is getting big. What's going on here? Like, this is growing a lot bigger than I anticipated.
Man, and it sounds like in two ways it happened out of opportunity. You saw, I mean, especially during the pandemic when we're in our homes, but really, getting outside was so good for us. You're like, how can I give back during this time? And then out of the opportunity of more and more people just wanted to be involved.
They did, yeah.
And speaking of involved, one of your board members, Amy, just joined us. So I'm going to add Amy to the stream. And this is exciting because this is my first time having 3 guests on the show. So let me see how this works. Hey, Amy.
Hi. Hello.
Wonderful to see you. I'm changing around the perspective here a little bit, but good to see you. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Speaking of opportunity, we're just talking a little bit more about how the Great Raleigh Cleanup came to be. So why don't you jump in and tell us how you got involved?
Yeah. So during the pandemic, I needed to get out of the house. So I was doing a lot of litter cleanups around my neighborhood, and I realized I couldn't do it by myself. So I was posting on social media, Nextdoor, Reddit, Instagram, trying to get other people involved to do the same thing, when on Reddit I actually found Preston, and I was like, there is a whole team of people doing this on a larger scale. I need to be a part of this. So I think it was February 2021 when I joined Preston and had my first cleanup. We cleaned up towards Glenwood North, and then I've been around ever since.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I'm pulling up some stats here because on your website it shares, how many pounds of litter are removed, pounds of metal diverted from landfills. I mean, amazing stats that you're able to also put together, which I think, people love to be able to measure something. And looking at the impact, I guess, I mean, just to give some numbers to the audience too, I mean, 95,000 pounds of litter removed, over 5,000 volunteer hours served, 900, almost 1,000 unique volunteers, 163. I mean, like, I can go on, and I'm going to link the website into the description of this post too. But, I want to shift over to thinking about how can other communities, when you hear this amount of impact, and you can actually see it in your communities, I mean, how can other communities adopt this sort of mindset or start these initiatives where they're at, whether it's here in Raleigh or North Hills or Detroit, Chicago, I mean, all these different places?
I'd say from my perspective, it's just start somewhere. I mean, that's all I did was just
Yeah.
started somewhere. I had no idea, no ambition for it to be as large as it is. It was never in my wildest dreams it would be what it is today, and we're still growing. But for anyone else, I've talked to people. There was a young lady up in the Pittsburgh area who was interested in kind of doing something. And I kind of talked her through it, and it was just basically just get started, start somewhere, do your best. And I think the biggest thing is, like, if you want it to grow and you want it to be something bigger, you can't give up on it. Like, I could have given up after that first cleanup when no one showed up, but I was just like, just try again. And immediately it hit. So, and I think it's something that people want to do and want to be a part of. My thing I say is, no matter what you believe in or how you vote or whatever, you just want to live in a clean city. Like, you want to do it in a litter-free environment. So, it's one of the few things, especially in the world we live in today, where all are welcome, all are needed. Come out, show up, have an impact.
Yeah. Just get started. And so Amy, you mentioned finding this on Reddit, and I know you mentioned about having some of these meetups. And what are some of the, I guess, resources or tools that you've used to spread the word that could maybe help some other folks get started?
Social media, first and foremost.
Yeah.
It's so easy to use your own network. So even just spreading the word to friends, the things that I will post to my Instagram stories, have my friends recycling differently, have them thinking about waste differently. And that might not immediately fix litter, but it's something. And it gets them thinking about litter, and it gets them thinking about Great Raleigh Clean-up too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really, really solid point. And, Preston, you mentioned something too, is like, who doesn't want to live in a cleaner city? And so when it comes to the mindset of, we do this for ourselves and, wanting to make our own city look brighter, but I think it also has a whole, I don't know, psychology of how it affects other people around us, how it affects our neighbors. So even if they're not getting involved, they're indirectly benefiting from this.
Absolutely. There's nothing better than, us doing a litter cleanup and some random person walking by saying, "Thank you, guys."
Yes.
Like, that's like the best thing in the world. It's like, it's like that punch in the arm. It just reinforces what you do. I'm at a point now where I usually follow up with, when you join in. Yeah, I appreciate the thanks, but now get out here with us. But we very much appreciate it. Someone who will be driving past and drop off some bottles of water or a couple Gatorades, and it's just like the appreciation from people. Or when we get a direct message that says, "Hey, that's my neighborhood," or "I drive that way every day on my way to work." Like, thank you guys. Like, that really and honestly means a lot, because it shows that we're not just doing it for nothing. Like, people really appreciate it.
It has an impact on everyone's well-being. And, when you're in that state of just feeling as though your environment is a nice place to be and you're giving that back to other people. And I'm sure that has such a spiral effect too, is like, you see somebody out doing this in your neighborhood. And sometimes people just need a little bit of that push, a little bit of that inspiration to say, like, I can do this too. And, a big part of our show is talking about like well-being and self-development. And one of the big conversations out today is just like how much importance is on our relationships with our community. And so aside from just having this wonderful initiative to make our cities brighter, tell me about what it feels like to be in community with people. And
Amy,
bring
I'm gonna let Amy talk, but before Amy talks, I just want to jump in and say Amy met her boyfriend at the Great Raleigh Cleanup. Now, Amy, you
It's
go.
true. It's funny, we were just talking about it last night because it was like 2 years ago this week that we
what?
met at a litter cleanup. Yeah. Thank you, Preston.
Talk about a love story.
I know. Who would
And
have
honestly,
thought?
that's one of a couple. Like there have been a couple relationships, and even more than just the relationships. I
Yeah.
point to Amy, but friendships and people who hang out together and
Hmm.
to play pickleball or go to the movie. Just all of that kind of stuff. Like you mentioned the numbers, which I have to update because they're actually higher. It's like 97,000 pounds. But anyway, it's even more than our impact with the litter. It's like the community that we built.
Mhm.
Like people look forward to coming to these cleanups and they can't wait to come. And sometimes even when I'm like, man, I really wish I could kind of chill this weekend. It's like, no, I got 30, 35, 40 people who like are looking forward to this, are ready to go. And I know
Of
what
your
it does for
friends,
our
of your
mental health.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
Wow.
started a kickball league. We've started a trivia team. We go plogging. So plogging is jogging and picking up litter.
Okay.
So so it's like we have created like all these little subgroups of based on people's interests where we get together in plain clothes and hang out and do something social. And it's like all these folks that I've met, and I'm so grateful to know that I never would have met if it weren't for Great Raleigh Cleanup.
Yeah. The community component is huge. And when you can rally together around a great purpose, it's so life-giving to many. And, it's funny now that you say that you met your boyfriend, I'm like, I've had so many friends who are like, oh, I'm interested in meeting someone, I'm looking, and I'm like, go volunteer, go get involved in communities. Like, when I moved to Raleigh, that was the first place that I started meeting people was volunteering. I was at the Boys and Girls Club for 3 years, and I'm still friends with some of the people that I met through there. And it's like to hear these stories, it's like you're out doing something that you love, you're out in nature, you're giving back. That's pretty life-giving. And then being able to have communities and friends and relationships that stem from that, that's incredible. I noticed something else on your website called the Adopt a Block program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to understand more about that and more about how our Raleigh community can get plugged into that, but then maybe even how some other communities, that might be listening to this could also create something like this.
All right. Adopt a Block is just our second program that we created after our big group cleanup. And when I developed it, it was my mindset was like, how does this become sustainable? Because I noticed that we would have to go to a lot of the same areas multiple times, a little too frequently.
Mhm.
So I said, what if we'd come through like a bull in a china shop and clean it all up with 30 people, and maybe somebody in the neighborhood can go out every now and then and kind of keep it up. So we created Adopt a Block, and it's a program. I think it's a little over a year old. But it was a program by which you agree to adopt the area, no matter how big, how small. You agree to get after it at least 3 times a year, and we provide you with the tools and support. I'll bring a picker, bucket, gloves, vest to your house. And the biggest thing with that is you handle it. But if it ever gets too large for you, then you just call us, and you have our team of, I think we're up to like 1,700 on our meetup site. Like, so
Wow.
we'll come out and help get it back. But yeah, Adopt a Block has been cool. Amy's a member of Adopt a Block.
Yeah. And so is my boyfriend. So we're picking up either my street or his street.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's something that I was telling my neighbor about recently too, is I'm like, Raleigh is changing. Raleigh is growing for better or for worse. There's a lot more people, as you said, Preston, that are still moving here. And, I notice it all the time where sometimes it blows my mind too, where I'm walking down the street and I'm like, someone made the conscious decision to throw this cup out of their window. Like, it's 2023, guys. Like, what is this? What is this? So I think that's an awesome initiative. Like you said, it's how can we make this more sustainable? How can we, and at the end of the day, you guys have also, this is a business and you're running it as a business. There's the marketing, there's the, donation side. It's a nonprofit, but like, you've got to scale it. You've got to grow it. I
Mhm.
mean, and especially with a mission like this behind it, you want it to grow because it only makes more of our cities better. So any, I guess, tips, tricks, or, learnings that you've learned along the way from growing this and scaling this?
Well, I can speak to myself. I learned that my least favorite part is the business side of it. If I could just get out and pick up trash with the people,
Yeah.
like, I would be great. But and I'm learning, and it's forced me to grow professionally and step outside of my comfort zone, like hopping on podcasts that'll be on YouTube, which is not something that I normally would do. Um, Yesterday, I was at a mixer for a foundation, and I'm like, this is not my comfort zone, but I got to show up because
Mhm.
I know the potential of this organization, and to get there, we need funding, we need money. It is what it is. It is what it is. We're gonna do the work. We just need those resources behind us.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Amy? Anything you'd add to that?
That it takes work, it takes effort, even to volunteer, it
Mhm.
takes work. And because when I joined, I thought I was just going to put in a couple hours, but then I got really passionate about the organization and where it could go and the impact we could have. And I realized that if I wanted to help Preston get there and get to where he wanted to be, then needed to put in the work.
Yeah.
And whatever that work might be, whether it's standing at a booth at the farmer's market or doing some sort of fundraiser on social media and asking for money, which is not my strong suit. I hate asking for money, but we need it. It's the only way to keep doing what we do.
Right.
We need trash bags. We need buckets to put the trash in. We use a truck and a trailer to haul away everything we pick up, so we're not leaving any trash behind after we finish a cleanup. Well, trucks need maintenance. Trucks break down. Trailers need maintenance.
Yep.
And it's even more time than just the cleanup. So get there a little bit early to help Preston set up with the buckets and the pickers and all the supplies we need. Wrapping up at the end takes a little bit extra time. Being able to take everything to the dump and the recycling afterwards. Preston normally owns that. I tried to help him once, but the dump actually ended up being closed. But it's like there's all this extra stuff that goes into making this nonprofit run and be successful, and it takes work. And if you're passionate about it, you have to be willing to do it, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
Yeah. Maybe that's a good time. I just saw that our other board member, Rick, just joined us as well. Rick, welcome. Good to have you.
Good morning, everybody. Hello. Thanks for having us. I
Of
appreciate
course, of course. So do you want to jump in? I mean, one of the last questions I had just asked for some feedback on is kind of the business side of it, is scaling this and what it takes to operate a cleanup program and a cleanup initiative and running a nonprofit and getting people involved. I mean, what's your what might you add to that?
Yeah, it's a lot, right? There's a lot of work that goes into it. Preston has done a phenomenal job kind of bootstrapping this thing at the get-go. But we're at a time, right, where there's just tons of interest in the programs that we're running, whether it's the group cleanups that Preston is doing, or it's the corporate cleanups and community partnerships, the landfill diversion programs, the adopt the block programs. So as we look to scale those programs, like I'm sure Preston has mentioned, and just how much interest there is, right? There's 30 people at the cleanup and just as many on a wait list. So in order to be able to scale and meet the demand for these programs, which is phenomenal, obviously it takes money. So that is, where we're at as far as, trying to figure out how we can, turn some of these programs into, money that will help us to continue to, drive our mission forward, continue to, grow our existing programs. And there's tons of new programs we want to get into. But until we have, the resources and the means to be able to put, the effort it takes into those programs, we're just going to continue to grind away at the ones that we have and, continue to have an impact and demonstrate that back to the community. And, with that, we truly believe we'll be able to get the means we need to continue to move forward.
Yeah. So at the beginning, we mentioned you started this during the pandemic. So, I mean, we're 3 years into this, and you guys have scaled to thousands of volunteers, tens of thousands of, pounds of trash. I mean, that's pretty impressive over a 3-year period of time. I mean, that's huge. And I guess the other question that I'm starting to think of too is, what about the corporate? I mean, do you have a lot of corporations that are getting involved? How can corporations get involved? I look at, there's so much that, social impact that a lot of businesses, whether you're a local business or, a larger business like our Red Hats and et cetera. I mean, how can these companies better support the communities that they live in?
Our corporate cleanup is huge. And I think in April alone, around Earth Day, I think we had 7 or 8 different companies join us. I had 2 in June, 1 in July. So all they have to do is reach out to us and we'll figure out the logistics of it. Just show interest. Email us info@raleigh-cleanup.org. Say, hey, I'm with such and such company. We're interested in doing a cleanup. We want to get out there and do some stuff. And we figure out the rest after that. And then as far as local businesses, how can you support us? Put a poster up in your store, or let us start a cleanup there. Let it, share with your audience on social media, with your audience on, within the location, things like that. So there are plenty of opportunities for large companies, small companies to be involved. If you can help us financially, there's an opportunity to do that. But if you can't, we find other ways for you to be impactful and help us grow.
That's what we talked a lot about, community, and talk about like team building opportunities when you can bring your team and your company together to, make your community brighter, bring people together, meet other people in the community. I mean, like it's business development right there, That's really exciting. One of the other things that kind of came to mind, and I feel it's one of those books that I read many, many years ago. And I think it was Malcolm Gladwell's, I think it was Outliers, but they talk about how there's actually research that goes behind, when you can keep your community clean, when you keep it trash free, like the impact that it has on, sustaining, good behaviors in the community. Can you speak to some of that and maybe how it's even changed the landscape of, like the beautification of neighborhoods or the happiness of people and, crime rates even? I mean, how does that look?
Well, I've seen studies personally that say that a more littered a neighborhood is, the more anxiety and depression shows up in that area. So, so it's not, you get that aspect of wanting to live in a litter-free neighborhood so that the depression and anxiety are lowered, but also just doing the work definitely helps your volunteering. I say all the time, somebody's like in a funk, I'm like, go volunteer. I guarantee it'll like benefit you and help you.
Yes.
I mean, if that's with the Great Raleigh Clean-up or somebody else, but just get out. Like I tell people all the time, I'm in no better place than when I'm out there with the people, because like all of my stuff is, in the back burner for that short period of time.
Being present.
It's so true, Preston. So true. I think, I'll just use my neighborhood as an example. And that's really how I got connected with the Great Raleigh Cleanup, is I was cleaning around my neighborhood, which, is an area where there's a lot of vacant land. It's close to the city. So historically, it's been an industrial area, right? So it's kind of been treated that way. So I've been going around cleaning up around my neighborhood, and, Preston and the Great Raleigh Cleanup were coming through the neighborhood one Sunday, and I was like, oh man, this is amazing. So I ended up adopting my block. But since then, Preston and team have led, larger cleanups. We've done corporate cleanups in my neighborhood. And I can tell you, just even seeing we pick up one spot that has historically just been a dumping spot, right? No longer is that the case. And now I'll see people walking around the neighborhood picking up trash. So it's like, it gives people a sense of pride in the neighborhood. It definitely helps kind of have this butterfly effect. More people start doing it, and it just expands out. So I don't know. And I've heard so many people say, it's addictive, and it totally is. As you go out there, having an immediate impact on, the look of your neighborhood or the look of an area it's addictive. There's so much to it. I love everything about the cleanup.
Yeah, and I can only imagine how it can inspire future generations when they're able to see this and have more respect for, the space around them, the land around them, the environment, nature, making it a clean place for everybody. And Preston, I thought it was interesting to hear. And it doesn't surprise me that it can impact depression and anxiety rates too. I mean, if I was to pull from a very small experience of that, I know that even if my office or my desk is cluttered, like my head feels cluttered. And so, it's this aspect of like, we are our environments. And if we can make it a greater place for ourselves and other people, then that's just the string of effects that'll continue to happen. So
Absolutely.
I mean, you guys are doing the hard work out there. And so I'm excited to join a cleanup, excited to share, this story. I think you really reflected that if it's giving money, if it's showing up for a cleanup, if it's sharing and putting a poster in your storefront or just sharing a story on social media, everybody as an individual can do a small part. And it can be, I mean, I don't know about you, but if you're on social media, sharing a story isn't that hard. So we can all do our part in that respect. So as we close up here, how can people get involved? Where do they go? I'll have some of the links down below, but just tell me more about where I can send folks, and or even directly to you if they have questions about starting this in another state.
Amy, how can they get involved?
Oh, it's so easy. Well, first, come to our website. We've got everything you need to know on our website. So check in there. If there are other people who want to get this started in their cities or their communities, email us, info@raleighcleanup.org. Check us out. We'll help you out. We'll share all the information that we have. What else was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought. But our social media is very active. So check us out on Instagram. We've got a lot going on there where we're sharing not just our news, but news in the community or news about landfill diversion or just other environmentally friendly factors that we can implement in our lives. So just, check us out. We're everywhere.
I like it. Well, thank you all again for joining. And this is, like I said, an exciting episode because this is the first time I've had 3 guests at once. So as I'm continuing to grow this show, I'm learning new things as I go. So thank you all for spending your morning with us. And if anybody in the community watching this has questions, I'll have everything linked into the description of this, and look forward to hearing, a month from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, how much more of an impact this has created. So thank you all again, and look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thanks for having us, Angel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.